Welcome to another episode of Breakaway from the Rat Race. And today we have Thomas Staub, founder of the Real Estate Investing Academy, also the author of Beyond Your Backyard, which is a book about investing out of your state, basically remote real estate investing. And then Thomas, through hard work and dedication, has made his dream come true, which is to achieve financial freedom. And as you know, for me, this should be number one goal for everybody, is to achieve financial freedom because it's inevitable. And so now he wants to show others exactly how to do it through his book, through his YouTube channel, and also coaching and education program. So Thomas, welcome back.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you again. Actually, you've never been on this particular YouTube channel, but I think I was on yours, and we've talked. Yeah.
I definitely recall the Van Gogh in the background. I don't recall that guitar though. That's new.
Yeah, so sometimes I take it out, take it back. Sometimes I have an electric one that I put in there too. And
I have two right here. I have a Gretsch. This is the Ferrari nice. Of guitars. When I got it, it was years ago. I had a small bonus. I was like, do I buy a guitar with this? Very pricey, but when I play it, I smile every time. So.
Oh, nice. Very good. Well, so let's start with your journey. I mean, obviously, my listeners, they may not know about you.
Sure.
And so if you want to tell us a little bit about how you got into real estate.
Yeah, and I hate to use the accidental landlord cliche, but to some degree, it's kind of that way. I grew up in finance, Wall Street, consulting, tech, all that stuff. And about a decade of my life, I did spend in the Bay Area grinding. And I was trying to buy a house, couldn't afford it. Saved money, couldn't afford it the following year. Saved money, couldn't afford it the following year. I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. I can't buy a house here. That makes sense. And back then I just wanted to own a house. And then I said, well, I'm not going to leave my cash sit. And so I looked at Indianapolis as a market to start buying rentals. Mm-hmm. So with that cash, I bought a few properties and it was very addicting. And then I started buying some more in Indy and then Alabama and then Texas and then Ohio, where you guys are at. And then that just grew into the journey of real estate, which meant flips. And then I didn't like flips, just a lot of work, a lot of backbreaking work, contractors and all that. So that I moved into a bigger flip, which is interesting. Actually in Ohio, where you all are at, doing commercial flips.
Yeah.
And then got out of that, wanted more of a passive role after all those backbreaking hours. So I started doing hard money lending, which is I still do that. And then most recently, the academy, I push pretty hard for everyone to learn, but predominantly my bread and butter is land development.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. So when you were investing out of state, you were based in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, right?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. And then, so, I mean, there's so many people here in the West Coast, as you know, and probably in the East Coast as well, but they're still chasing that, I want to own my home and all of that. And I have to come up with a down payment and it's $300,000. And then here's the house I want. Oh no, you need 350 or you need 400 or blah. And then, okay, well, I'll save some more. And then, of course the house is gone. And then you keep chasing that instead of actually investing that money and then, using the rental income from that or the net cash flow from that to actually subsidize and help you.
That's right.
Either rent or do something else with your money.
Yeah,
I think that's very smart. I mean, and that's for me. Like I bought my house a long time ago in 2001, I think.
Yeah, so you're fine, right?
Well, exactly. It was still ridiculous when I bought the house. We bought, it was a 1,700 square foot house. We paid like $750,000 for it.
Oh, wow.
And we just like, this is ridiculous. The prices cannot
like
go. Yeah. So we sold it actually in 2017 or 18 for over $2 million. So it's like, I was trying to get the equity out and all of that. And, and so, but yeah, we basically sold it. We rented a house instead that was bigger, better for the same monthly cost.
Well, yeah. And there's a few things there, right? One, the costs are not quite the same. You're not paying for the taxes or the insurance or the maintenance. So a lot of the rich people, the Grant Cardones, the Robert Kiyosaki's, they don't own their homes. They rent them. They live in these mansions that are 10,000 square feet. They spend $6,000 a month or whatever it is to rent. They
Yeah.
don't want to deal with all the expenses. And on top of that, if you go to sell it, who's going to buy it? There's only, so many people that are that rich.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's you got lucky in the sense that you had a wave of tech that boomed in the Bay Area, which made you a fortune, right? Which is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're on that side, awesome. And I think a lot of people are hoping that's the case for their situation. And I don't think you're going to see another 2010 to 2018, 17 in the Bay Area for some time in the Bay Area.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the future brings actually in the Bay Area, with people working from home, people try to get out of California.
I mean,
and all
supply is still limited, right? So you'll still see appreciation of 4 to 6%.
Yeah.
But like, that shouldn't be why you're buying a property.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why I think, people need to have, the owning a home is kind of like the American dream and all that. So, but what's more important, achieving financial freedom or owning your home? I mean, it should be an easy answer. But obviously financial freedom, buy your time, buy your, instead of selling your time for money, get some rental income coming in. And in my opinion, everybody should be renting. And then I should be buying a house and renting it to you, and you should be buying a house and renting it to me. We have better tax benefit. We have.
Oh yeah. There's, this in itself is a topic, and I think for new listeners, they're like, "What the hell are you two talking about?" But yeah, there is the American dream, but the first step is really to produce income through income producing assets. To your point, that will subsidize your living. And then if you want to buy a house and that house is paid for by those income producing assets, great. But don't buy a asset that's sucking away cash flow every month if you don't have cash flow coming in from other sources.
Yeah. And of course, the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area is a little bit of a special market. I think that some other market, I'm looking in Memphis, for example, it may make sense to buy a house instead of renting it, because the cost is pretty much, it's a little bit more skewed the other way. But yeah, in the BayArea, it was just, a
lot of markets, Denver, San Diego, LA, Seattle, Austin, even Dallas now, doesn't really make sense to buy a house.
Yeah. So that's why, just like us, you looked outside of California to kind of like buy these properties, these rental properties. And then you wrote the book Beyond Your Backyard to basically help other investors to do the same, and then talk about the different challenges. So tell us about some of the challenges you faced when you decided to invest out of state. Yeah,
it's the book. I was listening to a lot of podcasts when I first started out. My good friend Marco Cinderelli has a podcast, and so he and I are friends, and we talk every so often. And I actually met him through buying from his company. Right, he can't really source good deals that have a lot of margin these days, like you all can. But what I'll say is I learned that from these podcasts, a lot of these podcast, they weren't teaching concepts that really mattered. They were teaching concepts around the idea of passive income, great, cash flow, great. We know that, the basics of rent to value ratios, cool. But there's a lot of nuances in real estate investing that if you don't consider long-term, you could be in some pain. And what I mean is, I'll just take one example out of the book that I talk about. Real estate at its core is a supply and demand equation. Right now, for example, we're seeing massive demand, low supply. So what's happening? You're seeing price appreciation. It's a pretty simple equation. Well, what drives supply and demand? Population, right? That's a big component of it. People buy houses. So if you're just looking at a turnkey rental, for example, and you're saying, wow, this is a 20% cash on cash return, fantastic. Okay. Is it in a dying city that has one employer? Yeah. Right. Are you exposed in some way through crime or, failing schools, or whatever it is? And so, in the book, I talk about these nuances that are not so often discussed. And I do it because if you buy right and you buy markets that are growing in median income, growing in population, have decent schools and the infrastructure and a diverse economy. And, I go through all these 27 variables in the book. If you're buying in that way, you're not only going to get cash flow, you're going to have an asset that appreciates, which is one of the goals people want. You're going to get an asset that will remain attractive for decades.
Yeah.
And what you don't want to have is an asset that you buy, two years later, you sell it. You got to keep doing this flip flop motion. That's too active if you're truly trying to be a passive investor. So that's one chunk of the book is what does that look like? How do you navigate those nuances in the process?
Yeah. And a lot of people also, they're trying to build passive income, but at the same time, they're trying to leave a legacy for their children.
Oh, sure.
And so, I mean, this is critical that you have an asset that, 50 years from now is still going to be valuable and appreciated.
Yeah. Like I probably wouldn't want to be buying in Illinois right now. It's a dying state. West Virginia, it's a dying state. Not that it won't rebound, but this is called the facts what they are.
Yeah.
If you buy a property today, I don't know, in 20 years, you might lose value on that property.
Yeah, so I think these are very good point. And I think that for me, my number one criteria is landlord-friendly states, right? Because we're doing rentals. So that's number one. So right there, I'm eliminating a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of states. Yeah. And then, so I wouldn't invest in California, for example. And it's getting worse. So the other thing too is, population growth. I think this is obviously critical, as you mentioned. But I'm also looking for a fairly low population growth. I don't want an explosion of population growth where it's going to drive the demand for real estate and all of that, and then I can't find a good price that's going to cash flow. So because often what happens is you have a huge surge, like you're in Phoenix or you're in the Bay Area, you end up like so many people were trying to come in that the prices of properties would go up and then they won't cash flow.
If you had already bought in, right? So let's say you bought 10, 15 doors in Memphis, and then in 3 years, Google announces that they're moving their headquarters to Memphis, Facebook, Apple, and everything booms, you're good. So
that's fantastic. Yeah. And I think that's why you want to you want to have multiple, you have some business diversification. So this is something that we're using. And actually I created a website called Investor-List. And I basically share all my data about the different cities and stuff like that. And I created a business diversification index in there. So to kind of give an idea of how diversified the particular metropolitan area is.
It's so critical, right? We were doing a land deal out in Arizona, which is I develop in Texas and Arizona. And we primarily develop in two areas in Arizona. One of them is closer to Sedona, right? Well, we have this kind of off project in this small town called Clarkdale, which it's a really charming town in Camp Verde, which is a green area of Arizona, believe it or not. Where there's wineries and everything. Very pricey housing, right? So we had this piece of land in play. It's like a 3-year project, and we're going to build 80 to 100 homes there. And my one worry was that there were really two employers. It was state schooling, and there was a cement producer. And that was it, which is fine, right? But so the majority of jobs were driven by those three things, and then the remote workers who were coming, right? Which is that eventually will teeter out. And so my fear was, I'm not saying cement will go away in 3 years, but what if it does? What if that one cement producer goes belly up for whatever reason? Maybe it's tax evasion. Maybe there's a death in the family. Maybe the economy turns south and cement's no longer the needed resource. I don't know. But if that were to happen, that project goes belly up. And so to your point, having a diversified economy is absolutely critical. And I think even for back in 2008 in the crash, you look at, even now for COVID, even though there's not huge crashes, Florida, Vegas, very susceptible to the COVID pandemic because they're primarily services and entertainment. Right. So your point's spot on that having a diversified economy or metropolitan is one of the most key, metrics to watch.
Yeah, exactly. So and we also like some sectors that we kind of prefer. So once we kind of dive into it a little bit more, like Memphis, obviously we have FedEx, that's second largest cargo airport. in the world. We have a, St. Jude's Hospital. So we like healthcare and kind of like transportation or e-commerce kind of related kind of businesses.
To plug you, you're also in Cleveland. And for those that don't know,
Yes.
the clinic is arguably number 2, or if not
That's
number
right.
1, the biggest best healthcare in the nation.
That's right.
And I've been out there. I used to live in Cleveland for a minute. That hospital looks like a spaceship. It is, it's incredibly how high tech it is. And if you can get anything near that hospital, in my opinion, that's a home run deal.
Yeah. Well, also they have the health tech in Cleveland. They have the health tech corridor. So where they're trying to get a lot of these, the biotech and everything that kind of goes around the healthcare sector in that area. So which is a fantastic idea. And as we see, healthcare is not going to go away anytime soon. So, so I think we're safe
unless we
there.
stop aging somehow.
Yeah, but they're not going to do that. It's just it's just going to be more disease or something.
It'll be something else.
Or it's going to be a subscription to some kind of medicine.
That's great.
Again, another reason to have passive income.
Yeah, right. Yeah, amazing.
So you can have your cryogenic, and then basically your portfolio keeps paying your cryogenic thing.
Yeah, which by the way is the entire SaaS tech model, right? Yeah. I mean, there's a metric called ARR, which is annual recurring revenue. And last night in my dream, this sounds crazy. I got up last night like 3 a.m. I couldn't sleep. I felt good. I got up and I started working, and I had my own like ARR. I was like, oh yeah, you could apply that to our own personal life. Like, what is your MRR, like your monthly recurring revenue? And where do you get it from? Is it diverse or is it one asset? So you take that concept and you apply it to your own life. What are some ways to create passive income or your MRR, right?
That's right. I think that's a great idea. I think doing your own, imagining your family as a company. And for me, it's a little bit easier to imagine because my company is all family business. So, but I think it's very important to kind of like think of it as a company and look at your income. Where's you do your P&L, you do your balance sheet, you do your cash flow statement.
I in my course I talk about the same thing, and I call it the 3 sheets mindset, right? And I talk about thinking about your personal life as a business, right? Every quarter you have goals, every year you have goals. You have a 3-year stretch goal, right? And you manage your P&L, which is just your monthly expenses from your credit cards, whatever it is. You have your balance sheet, which is your true net worth, assets minus liabilities, or loans rather, or mortgages. And then you have your cash flow. Where are you spending your chunks of change in your bank? Are they in investments? Are they for a new car? Are they jewelry? Where's it all moving to, right? So.
No, I think that's very good. And also, Rich Dad Poor Dad also had like a personal financial statement. And then they were also looking at the income, whether it was passive income or W-2 income, or active income. And then you would calculate a ratio and say, okay, well, you're at like 50% passive or 20% passive, and kind of help you kind of get to that level. I think that's a very good exercise to go through. And so.
I think it's I just had this conversation, I guess last night. I have worked with many white collar tech people who make good money. I have friends that are doctors. I have friends that are, did research at Harvard, very smart people. And they're grinding away, making a good salary, and they're buying the house, putting into a 401k. And like, there's nothing wrong with working, right? No. They love what they do. They truly do. But why not create the income in the just in case scenario? What if, if you're an accountant, there's a new AI platform that outsources all accounting work. Okay. Well, what if you're a basic pediatrician that can be automated in 5 years? That hedge is pretty important. And it's not that difficult to start doing it if you are making a lot of money. You put 10, 20% of your income away into these assets. It takes 7 to 10 years, but you will eventually have that ratio that you're talking about, the 50-50. And that allows you to consider like, okay, well, I don't have to work. And I swear to you, the moment I had that attitude, life became way easier.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I think also, people saying, I don't want to achieve financial. I love my job and stuff like that. Yeah, and I'm not saying quit your job. You're not forced to quit your job, but it's the ups and downs. And some of the jobs, the pandemic was pretty interesting from that perspective, because some people that never thought that their job would be at risk, like doctors,
Yeah.
dentists, all of a sudden they had
Yeah.
like 6 months where they couldn't see patients, and just
Yeah.
like, or surgeons that it's unbelievable. People that
Yeah.
they thought like there was nothing that could go wrong, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden 6 months without without
You know
income.
what's amazing? About a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years, I read The Economist, awesome magazine. I read an article about these super viruses, super bacteria that are coming out that we don't have the remedies for. I kind of put it back down on the desk, and then I read the same article in National Geographic. Right.
Hmm.
So here we are. 2 years later, it happens. We're not really prepared for even a second one,
Yeah,
and both articles were saying, look, this is going to become more common.
yeah,
So this is just the first scare. This will get to a point where we're having this every 3 to 5 years.
yeah,
And so to your point, like, what is really a protected job? I think a
yeah.
mechanic, a plumber, those are pretty safe. But yeah, my mother works at a dental practice, right? She manages all their buildings from and stuff. But her business got hammered. They couldn't go
Hmm.
into work. Dentists couldn't pay people. They were
Yeah,
getting laid off, and that's an
yeah.
essential need.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah. The other thing too is that the shift of working from home, I think, is also going to change much more than, oh, I can work from home. I think
yeah,
this what's going to happen too is that if I'm a manager or a director and I live in the Bay Area, let's say, and now my workers, the people that the software developers or whatever that are working from me, full-time employees, they move to Phoenix and they move to Texas and all of that, or Florida. And then I have obviously in technology, you also have a group of people that work offshore in India and Asia. And so for me, like as a manager or a director, I look at that and say, well, it takes the same amount of work really to
yeah,
to manage these people. And actually, I would prefer to have it all in one time zone, so I don't have to be up 20 hours a day.
yeah,
So now these people that are working from home in Texas and Phoenix, they're kind of in the same market,
yeah,
and the switch might happen pretty soon, that now they're going to be asked to be independent contractor.
mm,
And I know right now this is that part of it is very protected by the IRS and all of
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
But Uber in California, they declared their drivers to be independent contractors,
yeah,
and I think this is just the one step
yeah.
towards that. And I think a lot of these employees that are currently full-time employees and protected that way, they may end up becoming independent contractors. And
Yeah,
then,
I mean, I think we can all agree. For those that don't believe in passive income or do, we all know the world's changing and it's changing rapidly. And
yeah,
I follow Ark Invest, or Kathy Wood, who's had a
yeah,
beating
yeah,
in the last couple of months for a number of reasons. But the concepts are still there, right? In the next
hmm,
5 years, technology is going to shake up all sorts of markets. I mean,
yeah,
all sorts. And to go naively through life and assume that your income is just going to be there for 10, 20 years.
hmm.
I mean, how do you not think Murphy's Law, right? Uh, and, or is it Moore's or Murphy's Law with the doubling
I think it's
change?
Moore's
Moore's,
law.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um, the point is that it's happening to everything. So
yeah,
10 years is now like 100 years in technology,
hmm,
right? So to think that your job is safe, unless again, you're like a plumber or electrician, I think that is naive. And if you're
uh-huh,
not planning for the worst case by creating income, because by
hmm,
the way, it takes time. It takes 5 to 10 years to create a
yeah,
substantial,
yeah,
little nest egg. If you're not doing that, no matter what your status is, unless you're making a ton of money right now, I think you're doing yourself a disservice.
yeah, exactly. I think, and yeah, it's a great insurance anyway. So, and as for independent contractors or people that are full-time employees that may be turning into independent contractors, the whole economy is turning into a gig economy.
Yep.
We see more and more of that. That means you can expect more ups and downs and peaks and valleys in your income. You
Yep.
may end up that, oh yeah, we have this project for you, and then you're working many hours, and then the project is over, and then you have 3 weeks without pay or three
That's right.
months without pay and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So such is the life of the gig worker. And that's why, and that's another reason why I think passive income is important to actually start smoothing out. So when you have these peaks, cut some of the top off,
Yeah.
and then invest in real estate. And then when you have a little valley, then that net cash flow is going to help you smooth
Well,
out.
100%. I mean, even in my world, right? Let's just say, for example, I just put in contract 46 acres yesterday. Well, that's going to cost $1 million, $1.5 million, right?
Yeah.
That money won't even come back to me for 18 months.
Yeah.
So I had to throw all this money at it. Now in 18 months, I'll be sitting very pretty, but until that time, there's no income coming in.
Mm-hmm,
so how do I live in the meantime? Well, I have to have these assets that produce income. Now, again, if you have a W-2, a little different story, but if you're doing a side hustle, if you're doing these big projects, to your point, you take some of the money that you make, you put it into more solid things. It could be syndications. Mm-hmm. It could be turnkeys like you guys do. It could be storage facilities. I mean, there's all kinds of things.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
But just be a passive partner. Take a 15, 20% profit share and be happy.
Yep. Very good. So you've talked about a lot of these. It sounds like your strategy was enhanced from the rental space and commercial, and now you're doing more some of the land deals.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about that, why you decided to do this.
Yeah, and, man. Yeah. It's what a journey. Real estate's so much fun though. It is because I don't know anyone I've talked to that has just kind of done one thing their entire journey. I mean, maybe, but it naturally evolves, right? And I think as the market shifts, as it always does, you have to shift with it, right? And hopefully you picked up assets at that time that you can hold on to. So for example, if you bought, turnkeys back in 2015 through 2018, you're probably doing really well right now, right? But now it's a tough market unless you have someone like you in your back pocket. So it might be hard to buy turnkeys. So where else do you put your money? Well, now maybe it's a time to think about, okay, well, flippers still need to flip. I can make hard money loans and make 13, 15% annually. Okay, so there's an option too. And when that dries up, which I'm already seeing it, and before this, by the way, it was syndications, it was big multifamily syndications. They were offering 8, 12, 15%. Well, now that's all come down too, to 6 to 10. So that's not very attractive anymore. So you got to pivot. And if it's not hard money lending, well, what else do you do? And so I found my next pivot, which was, I was already developing in Arizona. I live in Texas. It's a hell of a travel every weekend to go check out what's going on. So I brought it back home to Texas, and the numbers work. We're able to do all the permitting, find land, subdivide it, build roads, get it ready for these builders. It's a really tough process, capital intensive, but the numbers are substantial. There's a big margins. And if you have the right teams in place, it's a no-brainer. So basically, I'm pulling in capital from people in California, from New York, even Texas now, putting it in these land deals, offering a very attractive return, preferred. And, we manage a project, we sell in 12 to 18 months, capital goes back, and we just rinse and repeat. Now, this won't last forever. I'm thinking 2 to 3 years from what I've researched. And then again, I'll have to pivot into something else. So
So we talked a lot about construction costs and all of that, and or it's in the news. So how did that impact your margin?
Well, it's been interesting, right? Again, in Arizona, there's really three phases of development. Phase 1 is buying land, subdividing, preparing it with permits and all that. Phase 2 is putting in utilities, sewer, water, power, internet, gas, all that. Phase 3 is the actual building of the properties, right? Arizona, we do phase 1, 2, and 3. Texas, we do phase 1, maybe phase 2. Okay, so in Arizona, when lumber was skyrocketing, one, we had already locked in our contracts, so thank God. But price appreciation was happening at the same time. So our pro formas in Arizona, we're building homes for like 225 all in, and we were selling them for 349.
Okay.
Right now, pre-tax, pre-commissions. Well, material costs went up. Our cost of build was 285, but we were selling them for 410. So effectively the same dollars in margin. It just happened kind of,
So it's kind of shifted up.
The sea level rose across all, prices.
Exactly.
And so it's been fine. Right now, we're seeing a correction in lumber. I called that out, in the last month or so. And some materials are coming down. So, I think some builders are waiting. They're
Yeah.
slowing down production. They're pouring foundations, and that's it. They're waiting to
Mhm.
frame, and then once this comes down a little more, I think they'll double down and start building like crazy. So,
Yeah. For us, we haven't been too impacted by the cost of lumber because we
yeah,
just do renovations. We don't do any kind
yeah,
of like massive tear
yeah,
down or
yeah,
anything
yeah,
like that. We don't build walls or anything like that. So we were pretty lucky that way. But where we saw an impact on the construction material was around the windows and doors. So that
yeah.
was, for some reason, we couldn't get these
Yeah.
windows and doors
It
on
sounds like
time.
plywood's going to be the material that will stay up in price. 2x4s, 2x6s will come down. So to your
Hmm.
point, like you're not tearing down structures and
Yeah.
reframing.
Yeah.
You're tearing down, sheetrock. You're doing flooring, cabinetry, all
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and like for you, obviously the demand is there, and then
Yeah.
your price of the property, the selling price for the property is also going up to offset the cost
Yeah. That's right.
of the additional. So that's
Yeah.
great model.
Yeah.
So what are some of the so you mentioned the reasoning for that is the pivoting and stuff like that, and I think I'd like to emphasize that a little bit because so when you go, if you're a full-time employee and all of a sudden you want to be a real estate investor, even just to achieve financial freedom and stuff like that, I think it's important to explain that there's a mindset shift
Mhm.
that needs to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not waiting for your boss to tell you what to do anymore.
Yeah. It's
You're the boss, and then you make things happen. It doesn't happen on their own,
yeah.
and you have to keep your eyes open.
Oh yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about the mind shift that you see out
It's
there.
interesting. I think I was having this conversation earlier last week. I think people who think about retirement at age 30 um, may never retire early, right? And I'm just going to say it just to be transparent. And I think those that actually do achieve financial freedom, they probably had the hustle and the grit and the perseverance and the fortitude to make it happen. And those people, I
Mhm.
think, by nature are just curious. And so it's amazing because you and I could just stop and just chill out by the beach. But it's in
Mhm.
our DNA to be an entrepreneur. It's in our DNA
Yeah.
to go out and create and build upon things, challenge ourselves. And so if that is your DNA, even when you reach passive income, you're still going to want to work.
Mhm.
And that's kind of like
Yeah,
real estate will
exactly.
give you that opportunity. But for those that are literally just like, look, no, I actually want to go to the beach. That's totally cool too, and that is a mindset that can be achieved, from real estate, right? So,
Yeah.
um, I guess the question is, why the pivoting mindset?
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So I think even if you want to, at least at the beginning, I think as you're building the portfolio,
Oh yeah,
it's a little bit different. Once the portfolio is created, if you want to have a mindset that is okay, I'm just going to sit now and enjoy the beach for the rest of my life. I mean, it's possible, but I think in order for you to start building that portfolio, you have to kind of hustle, you have
yeah,
to
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
make things happen and stuff like that. Of course, you can also just call a turnkey provider
yeah.
to basically build your
That's
portfolio
the
like
easy
that.
way. Yeah,
And this is fine. By
yeah.
the way, Martel turnkey is great. But
You guys,
but yeah, if you want to
honestly,
do it this way, yeah,
I
you could do
I
it.
talked to you and team when I was in Tokyo, living
Uh-huh.
for a year, and you guys were up to some good stuff back then, and you do great. You have great product, which is hard to find.
Mhm.
So you guys have it dialed in. It's good.
Mhm. Yeah, things are going pretty well. I mean, right now we have like over 80 projects on the go
No,
right
that's
now.
good. Yeah.
So different
Yeah.
stages of development, and things are going well. But even for us, I mean, the price have gone up. The market market price for the properties have gone up. The rent have gone up as well, but they haven't gone
They're
up
coming. Yeah,
as
it's
quickly.
it's on the way. But
Yeah.
I think to
So.
your comment though, Eric, you know, in real estate, you might start off as a newbie, doing basic things like buying turnkeys, but you'll become smarter. Just
Mhm.
you're going to learn tricks of the trade. You're going to talk to tax advisors. You're going to talk to lawyers. You're going to get, around people who made their fortunes in real estate. You're going to learn new tricks. And
Mhm.
naturally, you become smarter. You become wiser. You pivot into different areas. You diversify, and wealth accumulates because you're making the right choices. And when it accumulates, you have more money to play with, and then that accumulates, and then it's a flywheel of wealth. And unless you make a lot of bad mistakes in a row, you're going to be doing just fine in real estate long term.
Yeah, well, absolutely. The other thing too, I think, where people get discouraged is that it's starting small. People don't like starting small.
Oh yeah,
because it's
Green
like,
Cardone,
oh,
thank you.
Yeah.
Buy 40 units at once. Oh my goodness, what are you saying?
Right. I mean, this is the thing. And this is the same thing with us with our turnkey rentals. I mean, yeah, you're going to make 250, you put $20,000-$30,000 down, you're going to make $200 to $300 a month in net cash flow. And then just like, hello, are you there?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
only
But hold on.
only $300 a month.
Yeah. You're also forgetting that your tenant is paying down your mortgage. So that's $250 a month in equity that you're getting. There's probably appreciation of 4%. That's $200 a month. So it nets out to about $800 a month. On top, including the cash flow.
Yeah, and depreciation, and all that.
Yeah, and all that. Yeah,
offset your tax and stuff like that. But I mean, actually, in Cleveland and in Memphis, I mean, we've seen last year it's not sustainable, but 15 to 18% appreciation on the properties. We're just like it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So the people that are some of our clients that bought like a year ago, some of them are refinancing and
that's crazy.
Get some money out to buy another rental property.
Yeah.
So that's a great idea.
Yep.
So tell me, so one of the questions I think that I wanted to ask you was, if you had $1 million, where would you invest it, and in what kind of investment you would choose for that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that goes in there, right? How old you are, how much is it all you have, time horizon, but let's say you're somewhere between 30 to 45 years old, right? I think, again, to go back to my earlier comment, building the nest egg of income producing assets is number one. So I want to understand, how much money do you want to produce per month? I think once you hit about 10 grand a month, you can live pretty comfortable off 10 grand a month. And
I think so.
Now I have a fancier lifestyle. I like nice cars and, fast cars. Yeah. I like whiskey. Yeah. I have issues spending money on some dumb things but I enjoy it, good cars. But, assuming that you're, let's say 10 grand a month, $1 million will get you there. I mean, for sure. Right. Yeah. So produce that nest egg first, and then with the rest of the money, think about some more, I say speculative, but still low risk. Maybe it is something that has higher ROIs in real estate. Maybe it is land deals. Maybe you might consider some, look, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Alibaba, phenomenal companies. They're not going anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And they have to grow to satisfy shareholders. So, I'm not against stocks. I just think it's an instrument that you use towards the end, right? To stabilize your portfolio. First step is to buy income producing assets, mostly real estate. It could be storage facilities. It could be commercial. Well, I wouldn't do commercial office, but commercial buildings outside of that, warehousing, syndications. You could do turnkeys. You could do, if there are multifamily syndications that make sense. And there's so many options. So go there, hit that $10,000 per month or whatever it is. Maybe put some money into some speculative real estate, up to 1/5 of the overall portfolio, and put the rest of the money in some stable stocks and just sit back and then manage your cycle and your operations.
Yeah. And I think this is something that, the question is really what people should be asking themselves. Many people are looking at their 401k. They think they're going to have like $500,000 or $1 million, maybe, even though the median amount of money saved up by 55 years old, I think, and up is $212,000. This is the median in the United States right now. So nowhere close to $1 million. But the question people should be asking themselves is that nest egg, that retirement money that they've been promised, that with their 401k and all of that, and so keep saving. What people need to figure out is, how is that going to be converted into a passive income? Income stream.
Well, it's not, and there's a lot of reasons. One of them is that dividends from stocks, I'm telling you, I'll call right now, not all of them, but the majority of dividends will be gone in 10 to 15 years. The companies will have to reinvest those dividends to keep up with the hyper growth of high tech companies. They have to. So banks, for example, I'll just give you a quick, I know we're getting low on time here. The cost to acquire a customer for like a Chase or a Wells Fargo is, between $1,000 to $2,000. Okay. The cost for PayPal or Venmo to acquire a customer is $20. Now, those banks will not be able to compete against the fintech banks. So they're not going to keep giving you a 5% dividend when they need to reinvest that into technologies or acquire technology companies. So a lot of people think, okay, well, I just need to make 4 to 6% on my money. Well, you're not going to put it in bonds. Bonds offer nothing right now, and that's for some time. You're not going to put it in high growth stocks because volatility. So, I think in 10 years, people who have this mindset, I have $1 million, now I just, bleed it out until I die. That probably won't work. So we'll see.
Yeah. And I think, so I think that's right. And I think there's other strategies too that you can use on the stock market and stuff like that, but that could work out. I mean, they talked a lot about that 4%, rule and stuff like that. But then then you have to really kind of like invest that and making sure that your portfolio stays balanced.
Active. It's a very active process.
Yeah. Unless you have some kind of, blue chip that you want to, but you want to make sure that you're positioned the right way, and so that's kind of the trick there. I was also looking at covered call strategies and stuff like that.
Yeah, but then you're talking.
But that's pretty active.
It's active. It's complex. I mean, you better have some time in your hand.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have the right skills to do that, and that's the beauty of, I think, of real estate, is that everybody understands that it could be as simple as you want it. You can also make it as complicated as you want.
You can, but if there's a hole in your wall, there's a hole in your wall, and what it might take to repair that. Yeah,
exactly. Well, thank you very much, Thomas, for your time. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, I always enjoy talking to you, Eric. I know you and Antoine and the team are doing great stuff. So for all you out there, I've known them for years before they had a podcast, I believe. And it's good to see all you doing very well. So.
Well, thank you, Thomas, and good luck on all your development deals. Yeah. And again, I'm going to put in the show note a link to the book and also anything. The Real Estate Investment Academy, right?
Yeah. reiacademy.co.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So I'll put that in the show note as well. So thank you very much, Thomas, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Cool. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.